People-pleasing looks like kindness from the outside. From the inside, it often feels like quiet exhaustion. You say yes when you mean no. You apologize for things that were never your fault. You shrink your own needs so nobody around you ever has to feel uncomfortable. Clinical psychology has a name for this pattern. Stoic philosophy diagnosed the same wound 2,000 years earlier using completely different language. Researchers studying people-pleasing often trace it back to something called the fawn response. Fear typically triggers one of three responses. Those are fight, flight, or freeze. Fawning is the fourth option. It is less discussed but just as common. Instead of confronting a threat, the nervous system tries something else. It tries to appease it. As a child, appeasing an unpredictable caregiver could mean real safety. As an adult, the same reflex still fires. It fires at a coworker's mild irritation or a friend's flat tone of voice. The threat has changed. The reflex has not caught up yet. This is where the clinical research gets specific. A study on interpersonal patterns found something specific. Chronic people-pleasers show measurably higher activation in threat detection brain regions during ordinary social disagreement. Saying no does not register as a simple boundary at all. It registers at a biological level as danger. This explains why people-pleasing rarely feels like a choice from the inside at all. It feels like survival. Epictetus offered something that reads almost like an early treatment plan. He taught that other people's approval belongs entirely to them, not to you. Chasing it means chasing something that was never yours to hold. He said, if you want to improve, accept looking foolish sometimes. This applies especially in matters concerning other people's opinions. That single instruction dismantles the entire foundation people-pleasing is built on completely. Approval was never a resource you could earn permanently. It was always borrowed. Borrowed things eventually get called back. The clinical term for what Epictetus was describing is an external locus of validation. A person waits for outside reassurance before they feel allowed to relax. Modern therapy tries to slowly move that locus inward. It teaches people that their own judgment carries real weight too. Stoicism attempted the exact same shift. It simply lacked the vocabulary modern psychology now uses. Marcus Aurelius wrote something that sounds almost clinical in its precision. He said, "Very few things are needed for a happy life. All of it lives within your own thinking and your own way of seeing things." He was not describing indifference to other people. He was describing something else entirely. A person whose baseline stability no longer depends on constant external confirmation. That distinction matters enormously for anyone stuck in chronic appeasement. Here is the part that surprises most people. Recovery from people-pleasing does not usually start with a dramatic confrontation at all. It starts with tiny, almost invisible refusals, declining a small request. It looks like sitting with someone's brief disappointment without rushing to fix it. Clinical studies on exposure-based therapy show something clear. The nervous system needs repeated proof that disapproval is survivable before it stops treating disagreement as an emergency. One dramatic stand rarely retrains that alarm. Dozens of small ones eventually do. Seneca captured the emotional cost of people-pleasing with unusual precision. He wrote that nothing feels heavier than a debt paid on someone else's terms instead of your own. People-pleasing, examined closely, is often a lifetime of paying that exact debt. It is paid endlessly to people who never actually asked for it. The exhaustion was never really about the tasks themselves. It was about the constant, low-grade fear sitting underneath them. There is a specific moment clinicians watch for during recovery. Stoic philosophy watched for that same moment, just under a different name. It is the instant someone says no and does not immediately explain, justify, or over-apologize afterward. Psychologists have a name for this. They call it distress tolerance. Epictetus called it something else, the discipline of assent. It means refusing to automatically agree with the anxious impulse demanding an explanation. Both traditions point to the exact same skill. It is practiced in the exact same uncomfortable moment. None of this means becoming cold or indifferent to others. Genuine kindness and people-pleasing only look similar from far away. Kindness comes from abundance and choice. People-pleasing comes from fear and obligation. A person can learn to say no clearly and still remain deeply generous. The generosity simply stops functioning as a shield against imagined danger. That shift matters more than any single technique. Both the clinical literature and the ancient philosophy ultimately point toward it. The cure, if it can even be called that, is not becoming someone who stops caring what people think. It is becoming someone whose caring no longer runs the entire show alone. Marcus Aurelius did not stop caring about Rome. He simply stopped needing its constant approval. He stopped confusing those two very different things. That confusion gets quietly unwound, one small refusal at a time. That is where the actual freedom in this research seems to live. Think about the last time you agreed to something you did not actually want to do. Notice what happened in your body in the seconds before you said yes. Most people report a small flash of dread, followed almost instantly by the automatic agreement. That gap between the dread and the yes is where all the actual work happens. It is usually less than 2 seconds long, and almost nobody is trained to notice it. Clinicians who treat chronic people-pleasing often start by simply teaching clients to notice that gap, without changing anything yet. Awareness alone begins to slow the reflex down. Once the gap becomes visible, a person can eventually insert a pause inside it. That pause is small, often just a single breath, but it is the entire mechanism behind every meaningful boundary that follows. Epictetus practiced something remarkably similar through what he called the discipline of desire and the discipline of action. Before reacting to any impulse, he trained himself to ask whether the reaction served his own values or simply avoided someone else's disapproval. This is not a metaphor. It was a literal daily exercise, repeated for years, the ancient equivalent of the therapeutic pause modern clinicians now teach. The research on this topic keeps circling back to the same uncomfortable truth. People-pleasing is rarely cured by learning new information. Most chronic people-pleasers already know, intellectually, that they deserve boundaries. The change happens somewhere else entirely, in the nervous system's slow, repeated experience of surviving someone's disappointment without disaster following it. Philosophy alone cannot do that work. Neither can therapy alone. Both traditions, oddly enough, insist on the exact same requirement: repetition in real situations over real time. This is slow, unglamorous work, and it rarely produces a dramatic before and after moment worth telling at a dinner party. It looks like one declined invitation. It looks like one unfinished apology, left unfinished on purpose. It looks like a single uncomfortable silence you let sit, instead of rushing to fill it with reassurance. Repeated enough times, across enough small moments, that discomfort simply stops feeling like danger. Both the ancient philosophers and the modern researchers arrived at the same quiet conclusion from completely different centuries. Freedom was never about pleasing fewer people. It was always about needing their approval less.